Hello, and welcome to my Airbnb.
Technically, this is my Airbnb.
This is Kofi's Airbnb. Where are we?
We are currently in Las Vegas. I came all the way from Canada for this, but we are at NAB.
If you're watching this, thank Kofi for letting me film in his Airbnb, because my Airbnb does not look good at all. It's a different room. It's over there. I want to talk about music videos, because music videos are fun in a sense of you can kind of do random things and it just works. You just experiment and play around, and the concept is just wacko and crazy. And it's like, hey, why not? Let's just experiment, play around. And that's exactly what we did on this. So this is what you're seeing a little bit of right now is a music video called Preacher Rock. And I'm gonna leave the link down below for the full music video and all of that. But my friend Alex, who you've seen on this channel before, he came to me with this concept of a whole music video all done in one take. The whole 3.5 minute long song is just done in one take. We didn't cut, we didn't fake it. It's a real oneer. And it was this whole like kind of fake behind the scenes of a music video that's kind of chaotically gone wrong and just shit's hitting the fan. And I was like, you know what? I love it. Let's do it. Let's just see how it goes. And let me tell you, the first take was chaotic. The haze didn't turn off. It was just a cloud of smoke. I couldn't see anything, but for some reason we kept rolling and going through the whole rehearsal and just seeing, you know, what would happen. And it was a mess. So safe to say, like 17 takes later, we got it. For a 3.5 minute long music video for 18 takes, that's not bad considering there's all of this different movement and all of these different things and handheld and focus and people. So I want to talk with you guys on just the challenges that we ran into, the lighting, the choreographing, what gear we used, and any issues that kind of came up and all of the fun stuff. What we used camera-wise, we'll get the gear out of the way and then dive into the fun nitty-gritty, was my Sony FX6, and I had that on Easy Rig and we ran it with Cerui anamorphics, which I don't love necessarily, but it's all that we had on hand. The biggest issue was me doing a 3-minute long take handheld with an Easy Rig and being stable. It was tough. I wouldn't do it again. Would have loved to have done it on a gimbal or something like that, but hey, we did it and I think it turned out well. And then the scene that we were shooting this all in was this kind of small psych wall little studio. So the issue that I immediately thought of was like there's like 10 people kind of playing a role in this, like between like the fake crew and the actual music video talent. There's a lot of choreographing that's got to go on. So there was like a dance team that came in there at one point and they had to choreograph the timing of that and where they're going and where I'm gonna be camera-wise to be able to show them all off. So this took a lot of rehearsing, going back and forth, doing walkthroughs with the band, walkthroughs with Alex, the director, me as DP, and then talking to my lighting team to make sure everything's dialed in. So things like this, they do need a little bit more planning. We went in days before and we kind of talked through, all right, this is where the meat of the things are gonna happen. Let's use this area, let's come in from there, etc. So that really is the gist of at least the choreographing. It's really important to block out your movements, especially before we get to lighting, which we are going to get to. But before we light anything, we need to know who's gonna be where. We need to know where I'm gonna be, where the talent, the band, and the fake crew, they're all gonna be as well. So that's what I did. And in my head, I kind of just looked around and I walked around the scene and I was like, if somebody's here, I'm probably gonna wanna light from there. But does that work if I go over here? Does it still look good? And for the most part, I think it did. With a oneer, it's tough because we're really shooting a whole 360 of the entire world. So we knew that we had to have lights in the frame, but that was allowed for this because it was supposed to be like a faux music video set. So we were allowed to have stands, lights, and softboxes, and we even used some of them as props in the scene as well. But before we get into the lighting, we can talk about the movement of it all. Being a one take and being handheld and just a lot of swinging around and stuff. I think it showed the chaos of this music video that is falling apart really, really nicely because it's just like things are going on. Everywhere you look, the band is fighting the director, people are throwing papers, people are throwing a temper tantrum really, and there's just a lot of chaos going on. And I think that was a really fun way to attack it camera-wise as well. But if we want to talk about the lighting, that's something I really want to take a second to talk about. We'll kind of walk through this chronologically. So the one room where we come in with the VHS camera, it was weird lighting for a VHS shot and we couldn't see feed at all other than just like squinting through the little hole there. We had this starting TV that was just this DV camera showing the title of the music video, which is called Preacher Rock. And I wanted to light this TV as kind of like a pulley spotlight. So we took a stand and just boomed out overhead, just a little matte light with a grid on it. And that was an Amaran F22. And we had that to like a tungsten color balance. So it just made a nice little orb around where the TV is. And then coming in from way over in the kitchen, Alex wanted red, just glowing. So I just stuck a tube up in the air, and I had G&E just set a tube to red. Nothing crazy at all, just filling in the room red. But he picks up this DV camera and he walks into the studio where we're shooting. And that's where the meat of all the lighting is. So starting off with the key light, it really is, it seems like a lot. There's a lot of fixtures, but I think it's done in a pretty simple way. Every light has purpose, which is important to remember. You never want to overlight. You want each light to have purpose. So we start with our key light, which you can see coming from frame right. This was, I think it was an Aperture 600C. I wanted a softbox on this. Now I don't typically use softboxes, but I wanted it to play in the frame as like a prop. So I was like, a softbox looks pretty cool on it. So let's just throw a stand up there with a softbox, and just to control the light, we put a grid as well, one of the egg crates, just to keep the light from spilling out on the backdrop, because the second any light shines on that white background, everything is just gonna be glowing like crazy. And we wanted to avoid that. And then, so if we're looking at it from a 3-point lighting setup perspective, we had our key light, and then we had rim lights coming from behind. Now these were just motivated just by I wanted like really hard, warm sources coming from behind, a lot of hard edges. So what we did was just take 2 matching Amaran 300Cs, and we set them to like 2500 Kelvin. And one of them had barn doors on it, and one of them had a Fresnel on it, just because I wanted a focused light. Again, I'm trying to control the light as best I can. On one side, we had it on the drummer. The other side was kind of coming over the guitarist's head. So again, just adding edges, hard contrast, color contrast between the white key light and the warm tungsten edge light. And then on the other side of the frame, you see there was a softbox as well. We just used this as a prop. So if it's confusing, you're wondering where the light's coming from, that was just a prop. It wasn't even turned on. Another light that we had is our keys, our piano. We just had practicals popped throughout the entire scene, but she wasn't lit that strongly. So what I did was just took like a little alligator clip, and I just clamped it to the edge of the lampshade, and I put an Aperture MC Pro just hidden behind the lampshade. So she actually had a hot light shining up on her from the light that was just extending what that light was doing, just brightening her face up. That was set to probably 2700 Kelvin. So I was being very strategic with my placement of lights. I'm not just throwing light in and just trying to light up the whole scene. I'm almost just making these little pockets of lights on the guitarist, on the lead singer, on the keys, etc. But then when we go to this whole section where the dancers come in, they come running in and the camera swings up and you see them, the light changes. So we did a lot with that. First, you can see this red light that's coming from the room they're coming in. I just took an Aperture MC Pro and I just stuck it to the ceiling. Plain and simple, had it on red, stuck to the ceiling, call it a day. But when they're dancing, for the brief moment that they are, you can see that all the lights in the room darken and they just have one controlled warm source on them. So this was an interesting experiment. There was a little eye bolt, like one of those little metal bolts bolted into the ceiling, and I looked up at it and I was like, I'm gonna rig something off. I just know I'm gonna put something up there. And we were talking to the property owner and he was like, we've hung, saying this now, it sounds interesting. He said, we've hung bodies off of this. It was for a music video. They shot a music video, they hung a body off of that eye bolt. So I was like, okay, it's heavy enough to hold a light. It was safe. They didn't hang bodies for that purpose. It's not what you think. I was like, I'm gonna rig something off of that. So I took a Cardellini clamp and I just like gripped it like crazy onto that. And on that Cardellini, I put an Amaran T4C tube. And then of course I used safety cable and wrapped it around that eye bolt like crazy. But then on that tube, I just put like little barn doory kind of things just to control the light down as well. That's all we had to light the dancers. But I talked to my G&E team and we just had it triggered up on Sidus Link. One person was on the A lights, one person was on the B lights, and when the dancers came in, they pretty much swapped them. So one person brought it down, the other person brought it up, and that way there was like this transition of the lights as the dancers came in, and then when they left, we transitioned back. So it was a really fun dynamic lighting gag, because I was like, this is a 3-minute long music video. I don't want the lighting to be boring. I want to switch it up somehow at some point, and at least just have a change of pace. So that was part of the motive behind that, and then just add a different dynamic for when the dancers are in there versus when the band is playing. So it's a lot to break down. I can't break down every single lighting setup in specific, but it was a really fun challenge to try to just control the light, yet light who we needed to light strategically. But it really comes back around to how we started this with like music videos. You can kind of just get away with doing interesting things. And if the band likes it and whoever's in charge likes it, why not get creative and have fun? And that's exactly what we did with this. And I'm proud of it. And I think it's a really exciting project, a really fun project to get creative on for sure. I want to give a huge shout out to the band for letting me do this breakdown. I'm going to leave a link down below with everything. I'm going to give a shout out to Alex for letting me do this as well and coming up with a crazy fun concept. But that's really all. It is currently 1:06 and I am currently in Kofi's Airbnb and I am supposed to wake up at 9 in the morning to leave, or 8. What time are we waking up at?
You got like 6 hours maybe?
I got 6 hours, guys. So if you don't like and subscribe and send this to your friend's grandmother, I'll be very sad. But with that, I'm gonna head out of here and go to NAB tomorrow. And if you're at NAB tomorrow, you probably already saw me or we talked because this video will not be out. But I love you, and well, good night.